How are you? Glad I finally got you.
Yeah, I seem to be a hard guy to get a hold of lately. My phone does not stop ringing. It's like I need a publicist, and I don't know how I can pay them in ramen noodles, but I'm hoping to work something out.
Yeah. I was about to say that. You're probably a pretty popular guy in certain segments of the population. Yeah.
In certain segments, yes. We're trying to win over the other people too.
The segments that eat ramen noodles. Let's just put it that way. I'm so glad I finally get you down. You are very elusive, as you say. I just kind of wanted to start off. When were you at the? What was that? Like a week ago when you got interviewed?
Man, it was about 2 weeks ago actually. The footage was recorded by one of the. Yeah, the footage was recorded by one of the members of the media desk here at Occupy Wall Street, and I guess it took them like 4 or 5 days to like go do anything with it. So here I am, freelance journalist, unemployed, trying to figure out how to pay my rent. And one morning I wake up and life kind of changed.
Wow. I'm sure. Are you like thinking maybe I should have stayed in bed?
No, you know what, man? I've been writing for years. I don't think anybody gets into writing or anything like that unless they want the attention. I just don't think anybody really knows what to do when it happens. So I'm learning on the job, I guess,
Right. I mean, I too am very much involved in the public eye. I've been a writer for a while, and I started out in stand-up. So I mean, I know all about that. You're just dying, starving for the attention. But then once it hits, you're like, no, I want to go back to doing open mics again. What just struck me off guard first, but when I was watching this whole Occupy Wall Street movement, was just the lack of ridiculous hats and costumes. And
I tried to add my own to the equation,
What inspired my attention was that awesome hat you were wearing. And was that a Civil War era hat? That was just very cool.
It's a Union Army kepi, and the funny thing is my best friend is from Georgia. He just went off to the armed service, and, I kind of rib him a little bit for being, from the South, and I love people from the South, don't get me wrong, but, being from the North myself, we kind of have our differences, and I think he thought it was a joke, like, hey, well, you're, a dirty Yankee, so here's your hat. And then when I decided to come down to the protest on the third day, I thought, hey, it's like kind of the opposite of some of the imaging that we see from the other side, so... hey, if I got to stand for the Union, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and I guess it was better than actually draping yourself in the Confederate flag. So,
God. I get that a lot, too, where people ask me, like, is that a Confederate hat? And my first thought is, this is why we shouldn't cut education funds,
Right. You should have had tea bags dangling from that, and everybody would have understood. Everything would have been cool.
Well, my other idea was to come down in his 10-gallon hat with tea bags hanging off of it and stuff, but I think that might draw the wrong attention.
Well, it could have actually been used as a barrier. If you had a 10-gallon hat, it could have actually prevented the NYPD from, going after teenage kids.
I'm sure Andrew Breitbart would have it on his website the next morning.
Yeah, let's just spend the time making fun of Breitbart. That I don't know if we have enough time in the world to do that, but
anyway, that'll be another show, I'm sure.
That'll be another program. Yeah, it was a very fetching hat. Not to say that your commentary totally sucked and that I'm just a Civil War era hat enthusiast, but it was a very fetching hat. And better yet, you did wear it to protect your head and not to dangle tea bags from it. I honestly do think that the Occupy Wall Street movement is lacking its trademark fashion accessories. I kind of think they need to have I lost my job, my home, defaulted on my student loans due to excessive Wall Street greed and deception, and all I got was a stupid T-shirt. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I've had my camera down here for how many days I can't even count. I just take pictures as I go. And, I think it kind of speaks to the organic nature of these protests as opposed to the astroturf nature of other protests where we aren't a monolith. We've got 1,000 different voices speaking to 1,000 different concerns. So, there's not the same message coordination as you would see coming from Freedom Works or Dick Army or somebody of that nature.
Right. There's nothing, it's not homogenous at all.
No. I mean, a lot of people ask me, like, okay, can you sum this up real quick? I tell them, like, no, it's not soundbite ready. We're not really arguing for, like, one specific reform. We need a lot of reform. And it's going to take more than one bill to get it done. It's going to take a larger conversation.
tread that thin line between idealism and realism. I tend to think the glass is half full of shit. So when I first saw this, my first immediate thought was, oh great, it's gonna increase tear gas futures on the stock market. And that's kind of what we saw in the beginning, and I was sort of dubious as to what the overall motivations were and what the messaging was. But as each and every day, it's just spiraling. I mean, it's huge, and it's really enlightened me and kind of emboldened me to really pay closer attention to it. And I mean, your words were just amazing. What you said. So
thank you.
So I just kind of wanted to get a feel of your background. You mentioned that you were a freelance writer. I imagine you didn't just break your grassroots cherry with that interview. So I'm curious if you have any formal background in local national politics, or are you just strictly a blogger, columnist? What is it?
I've been basically blogging on Daily Kos just as a regular user, non-paid, for the last 2 years. I've been writing since I was 17. Short stories, poetry, novels. Most of my background is really in the restaurant industry. I've done almost 9 years of restaurant work between managing, cooking, when I was younger, waiting tables and bussing tables and washing dishes and prep cooking, stuff like that. My resume kind of looks like Homer Simpson's.
You're a chef, too?
Yeah, I've worked as a chef before, too. I've only got maybe about a year or so of professional chef experience. I never went to culinary school. I'm the kind of guy who figures it out on my own, just, learn on the job. But, I've worked a lot of these service-based jobs where you don't really get paid a lot and you have to work hard hours and, you work harder for less money. And so I can really understand where people are frustrated from,
Well, I just learned how to poach an egg, so I feel excited. I feel proud of myself.
The funny thing is I eat mostly carb food lately, so...
Like I said, I'm so happy that I can poach an egg, so I don't care if the rest of the country's starving. How badly did you want to laugh when that Fox reporter told you that he wanted to be fair? I mean, was it side-splitting or spontaneous combustion?
I have to, bite my tongue a lot because part of me really wants to laugh in people's faces and part of me wants to scream at them. And I have to, really compose myself sometimes because I just understand that you get a lot more. It's like you can say whatever you want. If you're smiling, the body language kind of throws off what you're saying. But, yeah, I kind of knew what their baloney was, and, I'm not surprised. I think that was the biggest part of the whole thing, that he really said, oh, but we're giving you a voice, and if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be heard. And then I said, thank you, YouTube.
Yeah, and while we're on the subject of the diabolical right-wing runaway Death Star, when you were approached, were you put on the spot? Was it mere happenstance, or did that pretend?
It was total happenstance. It was literally I just happened to be standing there when Griff Jenkins walked up. I was standing next to our help booth and talking to somebody else just random, and they asked us, would you like to speak to Fox News? And they interviewed one young lady. I don't know if that aired. They interviewed me. We all know that didn't air. So it was just total random chance, and I am very grateful that our enemies are idiots, and they seem to just keep handing us these gifts. Every time they try to, make us look bad, they just make themselves look worse.
Yeah, they really are the gift that keeps on giving. But now,
like fruitcake, I guess, but, no one wants it for Christmas, but you'd end up handing it off to somebody else anyway, so.
Or throwing it against the wall. But did that pretend news reporter present you with it? Did you get a release form, or was there some sort of mock nothing like that? So there was no mock interview that happened before, because I know a lot of these, obviously these carefully edited style reportage. They usually work these details out beforehand. Is there any? Was this totally extemporaneous and impromptu? So it was just completely off the cuff, and you just were put on, and you were that brilliant right there and then.
Well, yeah, man. I've been writing about these guys for years. I'm really passionate about politics and economics and social issues. And, when it comes to a news corporation, they are really just a very unethical international crime syndicate. And we know what their MO is. It's destroy everything that isn't Republican. So it's so easy to make them look awful because they really are awful.
Yeah, they're the worst. It was just so great. I had a boner watching that. Just you just lay right into them, and they were expecting you to bang a drum, sing Kumbaya, and it was like watching you go up against Sarah Palin in a debate. I mean, I loved it. It was
I know, my friends were telling me that I should have to debate the Republican presidential candidates before they're allowed to debate Obama. It's like if you can't get past Jesse, then you don't even have the right to talk to Obama at this point. No. And I'm going to be doing some traveling. A lot of my friends who I've known, people who are much more successful than I am, they've given me a bunch of free frequent flyer miles. So I'm going to be taking a bus to Boston on Wednesday, checking out the folks up in Boston. Then I'm going to Madison on Saturday. I'm going to Seattle on Sunday. I'm trying to get out to Denver. I've got a lot of friends there. See what's going on out in the Rockies. So, hey.
You're a total rock star, man. You need to get the Sarah Palin bus, man. I'm going to Milwaukee. You're all over the land, man. That's great. And if you ever want to pass along some of those frequent flyer miles, I will gladly take them so I can get out of my vehicle. I'm so glad that you were able to share some of this information with me. So what do you think is going to come of this ultimately? Do you sincerely believe that this will effectuate the way in which policy is made? Do you really think that they'll cut off the sewage pipe that leads from Wall Street into D.C.? Do you see that happening as this grows and begins to become something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no, I really think that we've already succeeded tremendously at shifting the national narrative. I mean, if you had noticed, the talk has really changed from deficit hysteria, which was created by Republican policies. And it's funny, like, they wreck things and then they turn around and say, oh, my God, what's that? It's like literally having a dog that scratches at the door to go out and use the bathroom, and then it poops right on the floor, and it looks at you like, dude, what happened there? How'd that happen? So I'm like kind of think we're really not only pushing the narrative in a positive way that affects working class people, we're making people in power reveal themselves for who they are. Every time one of these guys attacks us, they're playing defense for Wall Street. Every time one of these guys try to pander us, they're not attacking the crime on Wall Street. They're just trying to win our votes. So the more that we hold our ground and keeping our feet strong on the street, as long as we keep talking about the issues that are affecting us and the values that we have, then we really force them to address the overarching conversation, which is just the total criminality on Wall Street.
Obviously, being very Ukraine of the issues and being very intelligent man, are you at all? I'm sure you're familiar with what occurred in Iceland, right?
Pardon?
I said, are you at all familiar?
Oh yeah.
In Iceland, yeah, and I actually just wrote a column on that, and that struck me as kind of stark in how they dealt with it. I mean, to most Americans, Iceland is that weird, funky land with unpronounceable volcanoes. But
the land of Bjork, yes.
And yeah, Bjork. Yeah, Bjork's there. They make funky music videos and they fish. But I was truly amazed as to how immediate, how their citizenry, I mean, I guess they haven't gotten dumb reality shows yet, and Snooki. They haven't had like an Iceland version of Snooki. But and in my column, I kind of try to tie in some of those, the uprising there, into what's kind of going on right now in Wall Street and other places across the country, and what their aims and goals are. And that also, like, why are we not seeing this in the media? Why are we not seeing what happened in Iceland and how other countries were able to pull themselves up by not having to, just give bankers more yachts and, whatever. And that's kind of what we did in this country. The Koch brothers need more yachts. So, I mean, that's basically what we did here. So I just was curious if you knew what was going on there, and I guess apparently you did.
I mean, to me, Iceland is a perfect example of what happens when people stand up. When people just don't put up with the lies anymore, they don't put up with the misinformation, they know they're getting robbed. Now, what are you going to do about it? And, for years people have told me, like, what's the difference about your writing? Why you get so worked up about it? I'm like, because it matters, because it affects people I care about. That's really important. But when you go back to Iceland, I mean, it's a small country. You had like maybe 100,000 people marching the streets, and you had enough of a critical mass of angry people who wanted justice where it forced change. Now, I feel bad because I think a lot of our brothers and sisters who consider themselves members of the Tea Party are doing themselves a disservice. I mean, if you're voting for the Paul Ryan budget, you're literally voting for them to steal $8,000 out of your pocket. So there's the political divide, but at the same time, like, dude, you guys should be with us, or at least against the people who are robbing you wholesale, But Iceland is a good example of what happens when people get fed up and they decide to act peacefully to affect the change that they want. And I would love to see that become a tradition in this country, because the alternative is vote for pandering politicians, get a bunch of nonsense, and they waste time and they filibuster and this, that, and the other thing. And the rest of the country just goes to, it goes down the drain. And if we want to keep our future from going down the drain, we got to do something about it.
Yeah, and you have certainly done that, and I applaud you for it. And, back to what you were saying, I mean, it never ceases to amaze me how people are able to vote against their economic self-interest. I mean, and if you remember the summer of the scream in 2009, when healthcare was such a contentious issue.
I'm still waiting for the death panels. I thought those were going to be jobs, I mean, come on, they even lied about the death panels? Really? I was looking forward to that.
Well, the death panels are real, and they're actually currently reviewing Newt Gingrich's campaign, I think.
Oh, God, yeah, I know. Tell me that.
But we solved it. We knew the AstroTurfing. We knew that they were paying them to show up. We knew what was going on. And even though we knew this, one video that I've used in my routines, which I just thought was too priceless, I couldn't let it up. One guy was shouting that he didn't want the government getting involved with his Medicare.
I know. It's really I don't know whether I should laugh or really feel bad. Wow, you're that dumb facepalm, Get the government out of my Medicare. It's literally, dude, seriously, get the dogs out of my hot dogs. Where are you getting this stuff from?
They're getting it from Fox News, but I'm watching. I'm thinking, yes, isn't that boycotting the highway system by going on a cross-country road trip? I'm told in the beginning that the Tea Party actually wasn't so much this radicalized, miserably uninformed million moron zombie marching group, but that it actually did begin with some legitimacy with the regarding the TARP. The money that we threw out initially, which was orchestrated by Paulson and the Bush administration, and it sort of started out that way. And I guess it wasn't dumb enough, and then it morphed. It took on a whole new life of its own, and for bad too. And that's what I kind of saw with the coverage of the Occupy Wall Street was okay, let's turn this into a left-wing circus. We're kind of ratings are down with the right-wing circus, so let's cover the left-wing circus, and that's kind of how I first saw this happening. When
I kind of feel that the media would like to paint that in the same light, and I won't lie to you, I'm here every day. We've got people who consider themselves fiscal conservatives, we've got liberals, we've got Ron Paul supporters, we've got independents. So no one voice really can speak for us, and at the same time, no one voice can co-opt us either. And I think that's what really drives the media crazy. They would love us to fall into that trap where we could just be the circus that they want us to be, and it's not going to happen. Because the reality is, most people, they don't follow politics. They don't get into the wonkiness of it. They may not be as informed as you or I, and God bless them, I love them, but they know what's hurting them, and they know what they don't want. And when you see the agenda that's being sold on, the main part of the political spectrum, it's just nonsense. Freaking out about deficits that aren't going to affect us, down the road. Freaking out about Social Security when it's solvent for 27 years. But jobs, jobs, I don't know. I don't know what we can do with that. It's dude, FDR created 1 million jobs over the course of a year or so. We did this before. We can do it again. What's your problem?
They do have many problems, and I don't think it's anything that even Thorazine could help at this point. But I'm a disgruntled idealist, but I'm still very hopeful. And what you and your brothers and sisters are doing right now on Wall Street is amazing. And I hope that it does do more than, again, just boost tear gas futures, like I mentioned before.
I know. If you've ever seen Battle in Seattle or what happened in Pittsburgh during the G20. You know, I keep hearing about this thing being funded by George Soros, and every morning I look in my mailbox, and that check is just never there. This dude owes me so much back overtime right now. I'm going to go talk to my union shop steward at some point because I'm really getting upset.
I really look forward to your national rock concert as you travel the country and new cats.
I'm a big Rage Against the Machine fan, so, you know, I figure we can get them, Radiohead, and maybe a couple other big names, and, yeah, we can go on show, do some concerts and sell some T-shirts, right?
And some Civil War era hats. Definitely those.
Yeah, why not? Hey, if it was good enough for Lincoln and it wasn't good enough for any Republican since then I'm more than glad to wear that, you know?
Wait. Shh. Lincoln wasn't a Republican. No. That's the biggest national.
No. I know. I love it. These guys just shriek about Ronald Reagan being the bee's knees. I'm like, yeah, you guys are the party of Lincoln. I think you've kind of veered off of that in the last 30 years or so.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. It's
since the Civil Rights Movement, but, you know, that obviously wasn't about...
No.
That wasn't about what we would say, because who are we? We're agents of George Soros, apparently, so who needs rational thinking? Soros has been declared.
Yeah, and again, Soros, he owes us a lot of money, if that's true. You know, I want.
Oh, yeah. I always tell people, if Soros is funding this whole thing, why is it so disorganized?
Exactly.
Right?
Again, I wish you the best of luck, and please stay in touch with me, and let me know what's going on.
Absolutely, brother. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be on the West Coast next week. If you give me an email, maybe we can have this conversation when I'm in Seattle.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We'd love to do that. You're going to be there next week, you said?
Yeah. I'm paying it all out of my pocket. I'm broke. I got like $1,000 to my name, and I don't know where the next check is coming from. But, yeah, I think it's important enough that we need to... shift the focus away from just New York City and start talking about the people in the other parts of the country who are suffering and having to deal with this economic disaster that they didn't create. So I'm going to be taking a bus to Boston, just natural bus style, and then I'm flying out to Madison on Saturday, Seattle on Sunday, and I'm trying to get one or two other cities. And it's kind of me having a chance to kind of talk to people face to face and also just not have to deal with the media as much as I love them. It's a little overwhelming sometimes. Like I said, my publicist is an underpaid blogger, so trying to do the best I can on a short budget.
It was great speaking with you, and I wish you the best of luck. And please do stay in touch. And is there anything else? What is your blog, by the way? Where you write? You said you mentioned you contribute to the Daily Coast, but do you have a personal blog website where you kind of frequently?
No, I don't. I'm being told that I should, but I've got a lot on my plate right now. So for now, I'm at Daily Coast. I write under the screen name Ministry of Truth, and that's where I started. I'll always stay there. Even if I do something different, I think I'm still going to keep posting and commenting there. And I use Twitter at Jesse Lagreca. I'm on Facebook, so, anybody who wants to talk to me, I try to return as many comments as I can. So, let's have a conversation.
All right, great. Well, there you go. There you have it. All right, Jesse, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, and please stay safe.
You too, man. Peace and love to you and yours, brother.
All right. Take care.